Okay, welcome everybody to Unlocking Potential, Navigating Assistive Technology for Families. The people who have their cameras on right now, we are the Assistive Technology team in Bellevue, and we'll take a minute to introduce ourselves in a second, but I just wanted to remind everybody that we are recording. If you would like to put questions in the chat, we would be happy to answer them. If they're quick and they're on topic to what we're talking about, we'll try to answer them, but we are going to save 5 to 10 minutes at the end. So I'm watching the time. Around 6:50 we'll stop, and we'll have a chance to answer any questions that have been put in the chat if we didn't answer them already. And then, of course, our email addresses, we'll make sure that you have our contact information and links to the slides. So if there's any information that you'd like to cover in more detail or unique to your situation, we're happy to do that with you. Let's see here. So before I move on, if anybody needs a copy of the slides just to kind of follow along with, I'm going to stick that in the chat. And it's so hard navigating a computer I'm not familiar with. Okay, yeah, so that PDF is in there. All right. So we're going to do a little introduction of us and provide an overview of assistive technology, provide some definitions about what it is, and then, of course, those services and what it looks like in terms of implementing assistive technology in the schools. We'll talk a little bit about legal framework and parent collaboration, how you can support your students, and then, of course, save time for questions and share some additional resources. So maybe I can start it off and then pass it on to Sarah. My name's Erin Schreiber. I'm in the upper right-hand corner. I work 0.8, so 4 days a week as an assistive technology specialist in Bellevue. But my background is occupational therapy. So I have a master's degree in occupational therapy from the University of Washington. And before coming to Bellevue last year, I spent the last 8 years working in the Snoqualmie Valley School District as an occupational therapist. And before that, I spent 15 years working in the community adult service world. So working with partners like Division of Vocational Rehabilitation to help students find jobs in the community. So my focus was on supported employment and independent living. And so I'm really happy to be here. I'm loving Bellevue and my team, and we have a lot of exciting projects that we'll share as we go along. Sarah, you want to?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Ayers, and I have been with the Bellevue School District for 16 years now. I am a speech language pathologist by training, and I spent the first 10 years of my career focusing on being an SLP in the buildings. I have a love of augmentative alternative communication, so I specialized in that. And then for the last 6 years, I've been part of our district's assistive technology team. And then this year, alongside my work in Bellevue, I also work for the Special Education Technology Center out of Central Washington University. And now I will hand the mic over to Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel Zilliot, and I am a special ed teacher by training, and I've been with the Bellevue School District for this, I'm wrapping up my 5th year with the school district. And then before that, I grew up in Vegas, and I taught there and for many years, and I've taught primarily just the early childhood years. That's kind of where my passion is. And I'm new to the AT team this year, and it's been an amazing experience, and I love it. And I guess something else you gotta share, but anyway. Oh, I do AT part-time, so I'm part-time AT specialist, and I also part-time do preschool special education preschool coordinator. So I do that alongside another one of our district employees. So I do quite a few things back and forth. It's a lot of fun. So, and then I'll pass it on to Kathy, who is not Allie. She is Kathy. And she can share that.
Yeah, so I'm back in Bellevue after retiring in 2021. And Allie is on maternity leave and she will be back next fall. My background is also as occupational therapist, like Erin. And I started back in the 80s. I'm dating myself. But my real love was adapting computers and technology for kids with very complex bodies and needs, even as an OT. And then I came back to the district in 2020. No, 2000, I'm sorry, 2000, and I started working as the assistive technology specialist for the district. So I was in that position for a little over 20 years. And it's just been such a joy to be back, even if it's part-time and it's temporary, but just seeing what a strong team we have in assistive technology in the district.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And we're very grateful to have you subbing for Allie while she's on leave. It's nice to have that historical perspective and expertise. Okay, so our mission as a team, and this is taken from our Bellevue website, but I just want to read it aloud and talk about it a little bit. We want to empower every student to achieve their full potential. We're dedicated to providing innovative, tailored solutions that remove barriers and enhance academic and social participation. And these solutions can include software, equipment, and/or systems that are utilized as needed to maximize the accessibility to the general education curriculum by students with disabilities. And so what this means is we as a team provide consultations, coaching, and training to not only our special education providers and staff, but also to the general education teachers, because we're really trying to increase those access points and make sure that all students have an opportunity to participate to the greatest extent possible. So, you can visit that link and learn more about the continuum of service within Bellevue and how we kind of fit into the larger special education services. But yeah, I didn't know if there's anything else that other team members want to add. Okay. All right. So we were hoping for a little bit of participation from the audience. This is a Menti. So if you take your phone and you're able to screenshot that QR code, it takes you to a Menti poll, which the question we're asking is, what is assistive technology? We kind of wanted to ask the audience to either define it for yourself or maybe provide some examples of how you used assistive technology, maybe yourself or with your student. I'll give it a minute and see if people can log on there.
Erin, did you want to post the link in the chat? Yeah, Christy's asking for that too. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
We will do that, Christy. Thanks for letting us know.
Thank you for asking. So, yes, I've realized not everyone has access to a phone. So that is the link, and then I'm going to post the code next. So you'll be prompted to put in a code. And once you're in, it looks like this. You can hit the little red mark. It gives us a check mark and lets us know that you're in. And then you can answer the question up here and then hit submit. I'm just logging into the results here. That was me doing a test. See if this works. I haven't used Menti very often, so hopefully. Yeah, I see anything that helps you with the task. Absolutely. Eyeglasses. Yes, I wear contacts myself. And I'm finding the older I get, the more I'm having to zoom in to things. It's always a fun realization.
I think I see e-readers too, or was that part of your test?
E-readers. Yeah, that might have been part of my test. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for those who logged in. See if I can move this QR code. I can't read it. Assistive technology is that tech supporting individual to minimize capability. Could be a wheelchair, hearing aid, and then I can't read the rest of it because I don't know why this QR code is blocking me, but support to reach your goals in technology. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and Sarah said, feel free to write in the chat too if you can't access Menti. I know we only have like 4 or 5 participants, so we might not get that much. Okay. Rachel, you want to jump to defining assistive technology for us?
Yeah.
Oops,
so,
sorry. Okay, sorry.
There we go. All right. So, yeah, like some of you folks shared in on the Menti meter, you were spot on. So AT as defined by the U.S. Department of Education is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially or off the shelf, modified or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a student with a disability. I think that last piece there, that's really what we hone in on when we're looking at supporting our students. So increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a student with a disability. We're really looking at like how can we increase student independence in the classroom and help support them in utilizing assistive technology to support their needs. And so kind of like what's shown on this little like mind map as that's one of the examples is AT can be used to support any of these areas: writing, organizing, executive functioning skills, your vision. So I mentioned eyeglasses, right? Your hearing, communication, all of those areas can be used to support with assistive technology. Anything before I jump into some examples?
Yeah, well, I was just going to add that the U.S. Department of Education has reported that 1 in 4 people in the United States experience disability. So these tools and strategies that we're talking about today really benefit all of us. You know, and as our department looks to provide support, you know, we're providing support to a wide range of students and teachers and staff in the district that require assistive technology.
All right, so within assistive technology, we have different levels of what that can look like. We have low tech, what we call low tech, mid tech, and high tech solutions. And I'll kind of go into what each of those can look like in the next few slides and how we kind of define what each of those areas are. So for example, looking at low tech. So low-tech options are devices that are readily available, inexpensive, and typically don't require batteries or electricity. So we have examples of like here we have adaptive scissors, those yellow scissors. We have like a pencil grip or a guide to use a writing utensil. A binder clip could be an example. And we have here examples of core boards in our district. You might see those around in classrooms with your kids, on playgrounds at schools. And these are an example of one of our communication supports, using assistive technology to support communication needs. And we call this AAC, or Augmentative Alternative Communication. And so these, we have two big core boards here, and they're used to support communication through focused words that we call like core words. And those are just really commonly used words that can be used really flexibly to communicate across different wants and needs and functions. And so some of the reasons that we would utilize low tech would just be like, I mean, it's really beneficial to have like the cost. It's usually quite less expensive than a high tech need, but it really is just dependent on the student need. We don't, thankfully, as a district, we're really blessed with the support from, you know, like just the levies and the Bellevue School Foundation, and just the way the district prioritizes student supports to be able to support students across low tech and high tech needs. But we, low tech can also really support with student independence, and just can be very flexible, and teachers can sometimes have a bit more quick buy-in with those options around low tech than around something that's more higher tech. So there's some low tech options. And then we have mid tech. And so mid-tech are devices that are usually digital and may require batteries or another power source. So here we have like a digital magnifier on that far left there. Then we have some switches, and then we have a device on that far right that's called a GoTalk. And these two, the one in the middle and the one on that far right, those are used to support communication. And so you might see a student using any of those help support their learning and be able to participate in their the content and curriculum. And then we have high tech, and a lot of folks do think of high tech when they think of assistive technology, and that is around like iPads would be considered high tech. So it's like devices that are typically computer based. They have usually more sophisticated features, and they can be very tailored to meet specific needs of a student. So like I said, iPad, a screen reader, voice recognition software. These are all examples. We have on the far right there an eye gaze device. That student is using their eyes to control that device and navigate the cursor around. And we have a model one in our office as well, and we practice using it. Just it's very it just, you know, it really helps us to put ourselves in our student situation of what it's like to utilize a device like that, and just the resilience that these students show in using those things. So anyway, these are just examples of the different techs within ET. Any questions about any of that? You've seen those around schools, or you have a child that utilizes any of those? To share that. Else? Team wants to share?
No, I mean, we are, like Rachel said, extremely blessed in Bellevue through our tech levies and the Bellevue Schools Foundation and the participation of our PTSAs and buildings. I've worked in other districts that are smaller in size and have less resources, and we have quite a plethora of, you know, devices at our fingertips that to the point where we've been able to create a lending library. So staff, you know, teachers, OTs, SLPs, whoever's working with students can try those things out and, you know, see what works. And so I'm really grateful for the resources that we have in our district to be able to do some of the cool things that we were able to do.
I'll just jump in and say that historically in the past, the high-tech assistive technology devices were extremely expensive and pretty clunky. And a lot of times students didn't want to use them because they look so different than what their peers were using. And they were intimidating to program sometimes, you know. So now that we have things like the iPad was really revolutionary because families were more comfortable programming it. It was students were like the cool ones in the classroom because they had an iPad. they were more accepting of using the technology. And it also has allowed us to reach so many more students with the technology than, we were looking at maybe $15,000 for a single device before the iPad. So it does make a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Excuse me.
Sarah.
Thanks for adding that, Kathy. I'm getting flashes back to grad school, having to program those big like Dynavox devices. And oh my gosh, it's so much different now. Okay, so in this next section, we're going to kind of dive into the details of what the U.S. Department of Ed defines as the primary components of AT in the schools. And these include the assessments of the needs of students with disabilities, and purchasing or acquiring AT devices for students with disabilities, and then coordinating with other therapies and services and interventions, and training and technical assistance for students and professionals. Okay, so let's start with evaluating the student's needs. Evaluating the needs of a student with a disability is the responsibility of the whole IEP team. So in our district, we do not complete expert-led one-time evaluations. Instead, the assessment is done by the entire IEP team, which can include an AT specialist as well. And at a minimum, the assistive technology should be addressed every single year in conjunction with the individualized education plan or IEP. But teams can trial AT devices at any time, and they do trial them at all different times. The evaluation is really a dynamic assessment process, and it's helpful for selecting appropriate tools and strategies to trial. And we like to do that in the educational environment because we then consider that environment as part of the assessment process too. And we also like to observe our students throughout their day. So this could be in their classroom, but it could also be in the specialist room or the common spaces or recess, all across their educational environment. Again, this is not a one-time assessment. It's just an ongoing process that's conducted by the IEP team. And then it's again reviewed on a regular basis as well. And we as AT specialists are available to teams for consultation and training and support. And we have a ticketing system where folks contact us very regularly. Very regularly.
It's good. It's good.
So to Kathy's earlier point, as you may know, the acquisition of AT devices can be extremely costly, and it still is if a family were to pursue a device independently, a dedicated device. So our school district and any student's school district is responsible for purchasing, leasing, or otherwise acquiring these assistive technology devices for our students with disabilities. And this also is not just selecting the right device, but it's also customizing it and fitting it, adapting it, applying it, repairing it, replacing it. So again, that ongoing process. It's not just a one and done. Here's your device, you're done. It's consistently coming back to that and revisiting it. And as we mentioned before, we are extremely fortunate. We just want to express our gratitude for Bellevue School District and for our whole lending library of equipment that we're able to access and share and trial. And then in addition to what we have in district, we also partner with community organizations such as Special Ed Tech Center, WATAP, DDA, DBR. I know these are a lot of acronyms, but basically you may have heard of some of them. They are, again, community organizations that help with the device trial, or they can help with the process of device trial and acquisition as well.
Yeah. And I'll just add that those community resources really start to become important around age 14. So once a child hits that 14-year mark, we really start to think about transition life after high school and want to plan for that. And sometimes navigating those community service systems through Department of Social and Health Services, so DVA, DDR, you may or may not know as a family, depending on where you're at in the process. Sometimes working with those systems, it can be difficult to navigate, and it can take quite a bit of time to get something. In fact, you might have an SLP or an OT that writes a letter of support, to obtain a device to use when you're an adult, and then it gets denied. And so then we'll have to submit another one. So, just it's important to kind of know that those resources exist. And as you approach, I would say like late middle school, early high school, age 14, that's where you really want to start, getting connected with those community service organizations and making sure that, you're prepared. Because it can be, if you're not taking those steps early on, it can feel quite overwhelming in those last, few years, depending on, whether or not your child receives services till they're age 18 or 21. It's we want to help set parents up for success, and that, avoiding the transition cliff that sometimes it's referred to as, because it just feels like, okay, we left school and they had all of these resources and technology supports available, and then I leave school and I feel lost. So we want to help you to avoid that feeling as much as possible. So.
Okay, so our assistive technology team and the IEP team coordinate with all the other professionals that are involved to promote service and use of the AT devices. And this coordination is really crucial. It really just helps increase the effectiveness of the devices and the strategies that the students need. And in Bellevue, we strive to collaborate with classroom teachers to ensure that the assistive tech can be appropriately integrated into their classroom, into their curriculum. And then we also provide training and technical assistance for students, as well as other professionals that are involved in education as needed. So again, this could be teachers, paras, the teacher of vision, whoever else is in that student's life. And one of our primary roles as AT specialists is to help build capacity for understanding and use of assistive technology district-wide. And this actually has become a little bit easier, as so many of our tools are more native now, and they exist already in the devices that we use in more like widespread technology. So some common examples, you might use speech to text when you're sending a text message. You hit the little microphone and you talk, maybe while you're driving. Don't do that. Or you might listen to an audiobook, for example, when you're cleaning or doing something else. And many of these tools, they used to be designed and used specifically for individuals with disabilities, but now they're just there and people use them more broadly. So this actually is a nice segue into our next slide. So Erin, if you want to go on to the next one.
Oh, ah.
This one.
Sugar.
So on this slide, you can see that the strategies and the tools that we support in assistive technology can be used very specifically with individual students in that top little triangle, but they can also be used more universally. And these are layered supports. So that means that even if your student is in that intensive level, they still have access to all of the supports. So you can see how they kind of layer on top of each other. So the green biggest triangle there is what we call our tier 1 or universal supports. And that means that those are available to all students in Bellevue School District, regardless of ability level, regardless of if they have an IEP. So those could be those native tools I was mentioning. For example, within Microsoft, it could be something like captioning or dictation, which is another word for speech to text, or immersive reader, which is read aloud in Microsoft. So all of those tools are built into the technology already. Those are universal or tier 1. And then the yellow level is what we refer to as supplemental or tier 2. And those are additional tools or supports that can be used when a child, or excuse me, a student needs just a little bit more support. And to make this even more confusing, they can actually be the same tools that are offered universally, but maybe they are required or the student really needs them to be able to access their educational environment. So maybe it is dictation for writing in a Microsoft product, but maybe we give the student a headset with a good mic because they're using it all the time and they really need that support to be successful. And then our intensive level, tier 3 in pink there, is for our students with disabilities who require even more support to be successful. And at this level, we generally, educators would consult with us on the assistive technology team. And that's recommended so that we can, as a team, look more closely at the student's individual profile, their strengths and their challenges. And we can really provide the student with the most appropriate tool or strategy. Anything that my team wants to add or any questions before we move on to the next section?
Covered it well, thanks. Okay, so I just wanted to mention kind of legal framework and rights. These are just links that you'll have in the PowerPoint to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and then of course the Americans with Disabilities Act, or otherwise known as ADA. I think it is really important that, families, you do have legal rights as a family, and we want to make sure that we are providing, assistive technology on a case-by-case basis that's really going to support the learning of your student. So, just sharing this and making sure that you understand that, these laws guide our work and our advocacy. And so if you ever feel like, you need more information, this is where to go, but we're happy to help provide support if needed. Okay, so then collaborating with the school, we just wanted to talk a little bit about, how to advocate for your child in the schools or your young adult. And we really feel strongly that it's important to build strong relationships with school teams. So when you're communicating with the school team, if they have a 504, if your student has a 504 plan or an IEP, then definitely make sure you're communicating with the case manager. But it's our recommendation that you communicate with the whole team. So if you're going to, maybe you're, reaching out to a specific teacher about something that's going on in their class, CC everybody on that, everybody on that team, because if a student is using assistive technology in one environment, they're probably using it in multiple environments. And when school is in session, adults don't have opportunities to talk to one another, and so it's hard to sometimes find that communication time or that time to communicate with one another. So if you're sending an email or you're wanting to share something, share it with the whole team, and be proactive too. Don't wait until it becomes a concern. We really want to make sure that we're addressing concerns in a timely manner, and so that proactive communication is best. You can always schedule a meeting with your IEP team. You don't have to wait for an annual meeting. You can schedule a meeting at any time. And then we'd really love to hear, what's working at home. So if there are success stories, how your student is using technology in the home. Maybe they're using Alexa, or or one of the other, all the new AI tools that are out there. We want to know that, and share kind of how you best communicate with your child, or how your child participates at home, because that it does kind of bleed into the school environment as well. And on the flip side, if you're feeling like the technology is causing a problem at home, we want to know that too, because we want to make sure that we're selecting the piece of equipment and devices that are going to fit a variety of environments. Let's see. I see someone's typing. So yeah, I'll pause before I move on. The other thing I wanted to say too is just when families consider purchasing a device on your own, working with providers or insurance, the school we are legally obligated to provide that device while your student is in school. And they can take that device home with them. They can take it home over the summer. Historically, we used to, I think, Kathy, you might be able to add, like we used to have families check it out. I want to let people know that we check devices. All of our devices that we give to students have barcodes on them, and we check them out similarly to a library book. So when we push something out to a student, it's kind of connected to their student account in Bellevue's system. So you don't have to sign anything. We don't have any agreements, but we do ask that it's a collaborative process in selecting that device. And so I see in the chat, Christy's asking, do all building teams get yearly training on all the AT resources that are available? That's a great question. I will say there are offerings every year. Sometimes they are district-led, other times they're building-based, and it really just depends on, individual schools and what their priorities are. We offer a ton of trainings, and we post all of our trainings similar to this, recorded. We have a internal SharePoint site where all of our teachers can go to learn about the resources that we have and view previously recorded trainings. So there's definitely opportunities. But as you know, teachers are often overworked. Time is limited. So whether or not, they attend those trainings, that can be hit or miss. But certainly if there's a student that requires something very specific, I think we can encourage them to attend or make sure that they know about those trainings that might be relevant.
I also wanted to add on quickly, Erin, that as we mentioned before, kind of our motto of the last few years is building capacity, because, while we do have 4 people on our team, it's not enough to support an entire district at all times. So we really do a lot of training with our ESA staff and our special educators in order to have them then go out and kind of lead the charge in their buildings. And so it's a continual process, especially like since the pandemic, there's just been so much turnover that I find that that's been a bit of a barrier. So we're continuing to build capacity, and in some of our slides at the end, we're going to talk about some exciting new things that we have coming up as ways to continue to help build capacity and get people energized and excited about learning about assistive technology.
Yeah. And just a quick note too, Christy, I want to address your question. Sometimes, students can bring in private or home devices, but they won't connect to our system. So like, depending on what the device is, like it might not be something that we can support. So it kind of depends, but if you want to follow up after this training, we can talk more about that. Oops, this mouse. Okay, supporting AT use at home. So similar to our teachers, right? They might not know about the technology that we are recommending. So you do have to take some time to learn about the technology, and we certainly encourage you as parents to become familiar so that you can support it at home. Establishing those routines and consistency is really important, and providing that support and encouragement. So making sure that what you're doing at home is consistent with what the school team is doing, that you're all sort of in alignment in terms of how you're building those routines and how you're reinforcing the use of it. Certainly we want you to facilitate communication with the school. So if something's not working, then you want to let your school team know. But we also want to hear those success stories, like I mentioned. And then troubleshoot and maintain that technology. Maintaining your technology is a really important life skill that we want to encourage our students to learn. And so just, being a responsible user of technology, keeping your devices charged and ready for school. So charging them overnight, wiping down the screen, anything like that. We want to encourage our students to learn how to take care of those things themselves. integrate it into daily activities. So sometimes we need to, provide limited or short training opportunities as you're getting to learn a device. But ultimately, the goal is to integrate it into daily life, and so not have it be something that's scheduled use, but something that's just, especially if it's for something like communication or building building routines and time management. We want to encourage our students to use that all day and encourage independence and self-advocacy. So, unfortunately, at times there are teachers that might not be aware of the need. And so we want to teach our students how to self-advocate, and say, hey, when I use this tool, it's not a toy. This is something that really, really supports my learning. And so helping your child learn, how to self-advocate and have those conversations with people that may not understand what they're using the technology for. And we do have a tip sheet. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the chat. So we'll make sure that you have access to that too. But if you have any questions about that, you're welcome to reach out. And then, yeah, the future is bright. So like Sarah mentioned, we're really excited. Our team has grown, and our resources have maintained despite some of the consolidation and stress that the districts all around us are kind of going through. We're seeing that technology does support independence and is super valuable for helping our students participate with their peers. So we're in the process of planning for and developing an inclusive education exploration lab. And I'm not sure if anyone has been to the Microsoft Inclusive Tech Lab, but we had an opportunity to visit that with our director and our superintendent and director of education, educational technology and instructional technology. And we have an opportunity to build something like that, but really geared towards education, the educational environment, where we hope to display a lot of the equipment, the devices, and software that we have in our lending library, so that students, their families, and teachers, most importantly, teachers, can kind of get some hands-on experience with it. So like we mentioned earlier, we do offer training opportunities, but sometimes, especially with technology, you just need that hands-on learning. So we're hoping that people come to visit our lab, and we're working on resources where you can, if there's something that you're interested in learning more about, you can, scan a QR code and learn more about that specific device or software program. What it's for, how to use it, how you can customize it, where you can purchase it if you're interested in purchasing it on your own. So we're really excited about that, and we hope to have that open this fall. So more information will be coming, and and I'm sure we'll be reaching out, asking for input. Sarah mentioned our community stakeholders that we're in partnership with, and we've been meeting with them about this, because we want to make sure that we're kind of meeting everybody's needs, or that we're not forgetting something. What do people in the community want to learn more about? So we'll definitely want the parent input on that. Okay, and it is almost 6:50. So these are just links to resources. The assistive technology devices and services for children with disabilities under the IDEA. So this is from the U.S. Department of Education, and it specifically speaks to what assistive technology devices and services are, which is a lot of the information we got our PowerPoint from. There's also a new National Education Technology Plan that was just released in January that talks about the importance of technology in education and speaks to the digital divide that we're experiencing. And then, of course, the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, that includes the Division of Developmental Association. I can't remember. can't remember what that stands for, DDA and Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, DVR. It includes both of those organizations, and that becomes especially important as your student ages out. I would say by age 14, if you're not already connected with them, you might want to give them a try. And yeah, okay. And this link, I can put that in the chat too. The BSD Assistive Technology team, if you use that link, that will actually email all three of us, Sarah, Rachel, and I. So if you have questions that you want to save for later, or you think of something later and you want to reach out to us, you'll be able to find us there. Yeah, and are there any questions in the audience? Anything that we didn't cover or you'd like more information on? Thank you. Administration. I knew association wasn't right. Developmental Disabilities Administration.
Hey, Christy had her hands up. Yeah.
Hi, Christy. Go ahead.
Hi. I had sorry, I'm on downstairs. Hopefully the dogs don't start barking. I had reached out to Sarah a couple weeks ago. As I had mentioned in the chat, I have a 6th grader who has dyslexia, and the first few years we thought it was our fault that she wasn't reading, because the teacher's like, just keep reading at home, just keep reading, and we're like, it's not working. And until our son, who was 2 years younger then, just like started reading immediately, we're like, oh, okay, there is something else going on here. But I guess what my advocacy work with the district has been focused primarily around literacy, but and at the state level as well. The challenge that I see with so many families is that dyslexia is like the invisible disability, because you don't see it, and most of them have superb communication skills. So if they're read to, they can comprehend it very well. But if they're struggling to like decode 2 words and they can't even get through the sentence. So I'm super excited about the learning lab, and hope that would love to partner with you guys on a few things that we're working with at the state level with all the literacy experts that we partnered with Decoding Dyslexia and the Reading League, that have such great tools to support, just as you mentioned, the 20% of kiddos who have disabilities don't even know. They go through school and they have no idea because no one's ever told them. So it's a big passion of mine. Like, my daughter has struggled with mental health just because she doesn't want to be different. She doesn't want to use her accommodations. And so I feel like the earlier that these students can understand that, listen, you're brilliant, these are tools that can help you reach, success, I think will empower them to feel like they can, be everything they want to be. So I'm excited for what you guys are working on.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And just like, even it's like there's the AT component too, Christy, but like there's a lot of stuff going on in the district and across the nation around supporting literacy and looking at, right, like the science of reading and really digging into, what students with dyslexia need to target for that literacy instruction. So I think as a whole, there's just a lot of really exciting components. Like AT can remove those barriers so that, if they're not able to decode yet, like that's not going to be a barrier to accessing the curriculum and content. And then the literacy side of it, where it's like teachers are getting more and more like professional development and training on really targeting the skills that matter, right, at those levels. So I think it's really exciting what's going on. And thanks for sharing your story.
Absolutely. And I'm on the curriculum adoption committee for literacy as well. Do you know if you guys have explored like the reading pens? or
Mhm.
do you have that as in your learning lab? Okay.
We do. Yes.
So
Yes.
that
We
would
don't
have
have.
been something. Like we kept asking for these things. We asked can we send in an iPod for voice to text? And they're like, no. And then 3 years later, Amber helped me get an iPad for my 5th grader, but then she didn't want to use it because nobody else was using it. It was like, oh, she just needs voice to text because she has such a struggle
Mm.
spelling.
Yeah.
But
You know,
we found some workarounds. Like she just wears the
yeah.
Apple Watch now and like talks into it instead of pull the computer
Yeah.
out or pull the iPad out. So
You know, it's something I'm thinking of too that you kind of mentioned earlier, and something that I think as families, like, you know, just bring it up to the case manager, the special ed teacher, and coming from that background, like, you know, it's like just like, hey, you know, as a parent, like, have you guys like consulted your assistive technology team in your district around this, right? You know, I'm sure you've asked that question, but that's a question
I
like for every family that they can ask because
yes,
those needs always need to be considered. And maybe it's something that the classroom, like the special ed teacher, for whatever reason, didn't like think to reach out to the AT team around, because there's a lot of myths around what AT is. And so as like, you know,
yeah.
something to just like advice to like all families, right? Is just like reaching out to that special ed teacher and being like, hey, have you, you know, reached out to your AT team? Would you be willing to talk to them about how we can support, you know, our kid?
So the struggle is a majority of them don't work with the special ed department. Like she didn't have an IEP because she wasn't far enough behind. She was just on the struggle bus and could never catch up and was always in like bottom yellow, but not red.
Yeah.
It was like 4 years of struggle. I mean, we finally we're supporting her, but anyway, I think that is also a really big thing of like, at least in our experience and so many other families that I talk to, you know, their children aren't getting so like it's like they're just missing. It's almost
Mhm.
like the UDL practices need to cover
Mhm.
so much more of these. Like every student should be able to
Mhm.
use whatever if it's helpful. Like they shouldn't have to have a 504, but I know everyone here completely understands.
You're preaching to the choir.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
y'all get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would
But
love.
thank
Yeah. I
you.
envision a world where, you know, you just give kids what they need, right? And you don't necessarily need to have a special legal plan, you know, in order to get it. And I think we're, you know, in some ways we are getting there with some of the devices that we have, you know, now one-to-one and a lot of the Microsoft accessibility tools that are built in. Um, you know, if we do if we are asked for a consult and someone wants something really specialized, like a very specialized speech to text, or even the C pen, you know, or the scanning pen, um, you know, we do think of the whole child and include the child the in the decision making, you know, and if they are concerned about using something different from their peers, like that can be a barrier. So it's nice to have kind of starting with those embedded tools and strategies that are already in all devices, and making sure that they know that those settings are there. They can turn them on when they need it. They can turn it off when they don't need it. Making sure that the teacher knows that that's something that they can use. Um, you know, so kind of starting with that universal whole triangle, and then if that's not working, you know, then we go to the next level, and if that's not working, then we go to the next level. Uh, but yeah, it's trying to educate everybody uh, what we know. It's We're getting there, but there's still a lot of learning that needs to take place.
And I'd also
Yeah.
say technology is changing so rapidly. And I mean, we're in assistive technology, and even for us to keep up, that's our job, you know, and for us to keep up with all the new developments and things like that. And then, you know, we try to share that out with families and staff, and even Microsoft and the products they have. They're constantly improving or adding new features that people might not be aware of yet. So that's something to keep in mind. It's always evolving.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Was there any other questions in the chat? I wasn't. Okay. No. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time to come and be here with us today. Please do reach out if you have specific questions, any information we covered or things that you're wondering about. We're happy to work with you and your school team. Okay.
Thank you all.
And then this recording will be shared out.
All right. I stopped recording.